Hello, everyone, and welcome on into One Soccer Today, right here on OneSoccer.ca. Andy Petrillo, Gareth Wheeler, Oliver Platt with you. Everyone, check your pulses. How you doing? I don't know. I can never get it on my wrist. I always got to go to my neck. How is it
Really?
feeling? After, yeah, I
What's
don't
wrong
know.
with
My
your
dad.
circulation?
Okay.
I'm
What's that?
worried about you.
The wrist doesn't work. The neck works, and it's a lot calmer after the weekend, gentlemen. Not so much
Is
when it
it?
comes to Max Crépeau. Little bit better when it comes to Alphonso Davies, and that's who we're going to talk about right out of the gate, because in a game this weekend with Bayern, he was clutching his hamstring, and the latest reports is that he will miss 2 matches for Bayern. They're saying that his participation in the World Cup will not be in jeopardy. We're also hearing there was more clarification again today, without being, trying to be a doctor, I should say, that there are different levels of strains. And grade 2 is kind of in the middle there. If you're like a bad grade 2 and higher, you're out. It sounds like he's a mild grade 2, which means, guys, that we're now a race against the clock here in feeling good for the World Cup. So it looks like he's going to be, we're about 2 weeks out from Qatar. So I don't know, Ollie. Yes, they're trying to say everything. He's going to miss 2 games, but he's good to go for the World Cup. But are you just like still a little hot under the collar?
No.
You're just feeling a little uncomfortable?
No, you guys are too pessimistic. I'm choosing optimism. It's a beautiful Monday here in Toronto. This could have been a lot worse, right? On Sunday, we were really worried that Alphonso Davies was going to miss the World Cup. I think he's going to play. When you look at the information that's out there right now, look, is it going to be a little tense and nervy? Is it going to be a bit of a race against time? Maybe. Yeah, we know that it's not an ideal situation. But the indications are that he's going to be okay. Bayern Munich have said that he's not at risk of missing the World Cup. Julian Nagelsmann has come out this morning and said that he thinks he will be ready to go against Belgium, if not again in the friendly against Japan before the tournament. Bayern Munich don't really have much incentive to say that. They'll want to protect the player, take no risks with the player whatsoever. The fact that they're coming out and taking that position and aren't, reluctant to say that, I think is a really good sign. We've also seen in the past, I mentioned this on Sunday as a reason for optimism, Davies' muscle injuries don't tend to last that long. Each season he has 1 or 2 where there's a little tweak, he misses a week or 2, and then he comes back without issue. So I'm hoping this is another one of those situations. I think we are in a much better place than we probably thought we would be, at the weekend after it happens. And I think he's got an excellent chance of being there in the starting lineup against Belgium. And that is great news after what we saw with the player coming off the pitch over the weekend.
That's fine, Ollie, but we don't know. Nagelsmann doesn't know. We no, because
he knows more than us.
That is true, but the way that people react to hamstrings, if he's rushed, there's a great threat for recurrence of injury. Hamstrings are tricky. They're finicky. Yeah. They're difficult. Raphael Varane had a very similar situation play out with Manchester United back on October 22nd. Where they were thinking that it was going to be the worst. He had an MRI. It came back that it wasn't as serious. Now, 16 days later, he's on the carpet training. 16 days. We're 17 days now, I believe. 16 days away from Canada's first game. Like, there's no guarantee. There's no assurance here whatsoever. And by the way, Bayern Munich, might be programmed to say that. If you want to take his word for it, that puts all the pressure on Canada to say, well, now he's up to you. You need to make sure that you treat him well, and we're going to do everything that we can. And this is Canada's problem. Now, this has nothing to do with the club right now. He's going to be, they already said he's gone for the next 2 games. So over the course of the next week, he's going to miss 2 games. He's on international duty. And guess what? If he comes back and he tweaks his hamstring, then guess who the finger of blame gets pointed to? It gets pointed to Canada.
Bayern aren't just going to say, it's your problem now. Like, this guy is worth $100 million. Like, they're going to have a big say in his progress and how much he plays. If they're coming out and saying he's going to be ready for Belgium, that is a great sign. That is a real reason for optimism.
I would love to hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've not seen Alphonso Davies post anything on any social media right now. We haven't heard anything from the Canada camp. So this is coming from Bayern Munich. By the way, a club who are so concerned about their $100 million player that they decided to play him for 45 minutes in a dead rubber midweek. Come on here. I understand it's Champions League, but also the health of a player leading into the biggest moment of his life, playing in the World Cup, not only from a playing perspective, but a commercial perspective as well. I would hope that there would be a little bit more care about the player. And look, now a week off, we will hold our breath. We hope that he recovers. I hope that Nagelsmann's spot on, and I hope that there's no threat of recurrence. And I hope that this is an episode that does not affect his participation in terms of restrictions or limitations heading into this, this crucial period of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what we simply don't know. He needs to recover. He needs to heal. We need to still keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best, because the world has changed since Saturday morning when we woke up before Bayern Munich played on the weekend. It's changed, and the field has shifted.
I will say this, the person that I know at Bayern who I've spoken to, and this is not me trying to, throw any kind of jabs at Bayern. They care about Alphonso Davies as a Bayern player. And I think the precedent is there. And I know what you're saying, right? Like, this is huge for Canada. This is huge for him. But case in point, gentlemen, they didn't even release him to be with his team for the Jamaica game where they knew that they were going to qualify for the World Cup. Bayern cares about their player as a Bayern player. And we can have this argument. Is that right? Is that wrong? Who pays his bills, right? Like, all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line is Bayern has precedent here for caring about him when it comes to them. But now they obviously realize there's an injury that needs to keep him on the shelf for a couple games for them. And now they're trying to quell the masses here in Canada by saying he's going to be good to go. He's going to be good to go. But I guess my question then, though, Wheels, is it doesn't matter what Bayern says, Nagelsmann said. It doesn't matter. What matters is what now John Herdman and Alphonso Davies are going to come up with and what they feel is best for him. Yeah. We are completely guessing right now because, again, we don't know, and we don't know how he's going to feel in 2 weeks. But if you're Herdman, kind of what's going through your head at the moment? Do you play him against Belgium? Or do you wait, or do you create some sort of formation? Because Alphonso Davies' greatest asset is his speed. When you have a injured hamstring, I don't know, perhaps your speed is a little affected. So do you play him, number one, against Belgium? Number two, if you do play him, do you try to protect him?
Yeah, I think you need to act in the best interest of the player here. You just have to. I know that, the sentiment might suggest you throw caution to the breeze and you just let the player go. You need to do, is that the expression?
No!
Into the wind.
Into the wind.
Caution into the wind.
You downgraded it to a breeze.
Thank you. I heard the chuckle. That was just perfect. But you have to do what's in the best interest of the player, because any further significant injury could impact this player moving forward. Look, again, I'll go back to it. Bayern Munich's a club that has won the last 10 Bundesliga titles by an average of 14 points a season over that span. They're a minus 2,500 team to go on and win the Bundesliga this year. Yet Alphonso Davies, who's now been injured 3 times this season, has the 4th most minutes on the team and the 2nd most minutes per game. So, look, Andy, you said it. Bayern Munich, and everything that they've said in this statement, is in their own interest. They've acknowledged this wasn't Alphonso Davies was substituted off because of for precautionary reasons. He is a hamstring strain, and we all know how that works. It could be a couple days, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, could be 3 weeks. This is a massive headache for John Herdman in Canada. And we're speaking from a Canadian perspective here, because that's what we should care about right now is Alphonso Davies and Canada at the World Cup. And for me right now, if he's okay, if he passed the test, if he's good to go, then you have to play him. But you need to act in the best interest of the player. Player first.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't really follow here how, and I think you're spot on that Bayern will take care of Bayern. They're a big club. We all know that. But I don't understand how Bayern coming out and saying, and again, Nagelsmann said it this morning, that he should be ready to play against Belgium. Is in Bayern's interests if they're at all worried about the player. Like they've just joined PSG in the Champions League. That game will be early next year. Those 2 games will be early next year. Davies is a massive part of that team. If there is any risk of him aggravating an injury here, potentially being out longer term, getting one of those nastier hamstring problems that you talked about, Wheels, they will pull him out of the World Cup and they won't hesitate to do it. So for me, the fact that they're not doing that and they're coming out and saying and sounding pretty positive about the outlook here, I think we have to take that as a really good sign. To answer the question, of course he plays. If he's, even 60, 70% ready to go, he plays. I understand that you have to take care of the player. You have a responsibility to the player and to his health. But I think you also look at it from Alphonso Davies' point of view. This is the World Cup. This is the biggest sporting event on earth. He's been waiting for this, his entire career, as every top level player does. He's going to be desperate to play. And if there's if he's in any way able to play, he is going to try and do that. This is as big as it gets. You don't kind of put this off and say, well, there's another one 4 years from now. If you are able to go and you're Alphonso Davies, you're the best player on this team, you're going.
Ollie, I'm not completely dismissing anything that Nagelsmann or Bayern Munich said, but I'll take it all with a pinch of salt as well. Like, let's be honest.
Fine,
I need to hear from Davies and Canada before I get a proper read on the situation. And then I can make my assessment. They need to do what's right for the player, and they need to keep relations between themselves and the player on the up and up as well. Davies is a player that now he doesn't necessarily need Bayern Munich. They're one of the biggest clubs in the world, but whether it's Real Madrid or Man City or Liverpool or United or Barcelona, this guy can play anywhere in the world today. Imagine that. You tweak your hamstring. Sorry, Alphonso Davies, you're staying back. You're not going to be going to the World Cup. They can't say that either. So let's just wait till we hear from the Canada camp, and then I think we'll have a better idea where things stand.